Yeah, guten Tag, it's Rich from Hughes Kettner, and I'm on the last day of NAMM 2019 with Mr. Justin Johnson.
Yeah, good to meet you, brother.
Yeah, great to meet you. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, glad to be here, man, and I'm just loving this amp. This sounds killer, man. I can't believe that it's not a tube amp. It's amazing.
Yeah. So for those of you who might not know, Justin, you got into the Grandmeister Deluxe 40 last year, right? And now you've just played the Black Spirit 200 for the first time, literally 2 minutes ago. Tell us about your experiences with it so far, your spontaneous thoughts.
Well, you know, one of the things I love about the Grandmeister is that it has all of the tube sounds that I love. You know, it has some of the classic clean tones. You know, it's nice and raunchy when you push it. It responds just the way you want a tube amp to respond, you know. And it's like basically 4 or 5 tube amps in one, you know, which is really cool too for the studio and for stage. But you know, again, I've been playing on this for just a couple of minutes here, and it's I would never know it wasn't a tube amp. And you know, I think that's one of those things you hear a lot with amp simulators and that kind of thing. But it just responds in a really organic way, which I've never really heard out of a solid state amp like this. It's crazy. You guys just nailed it. It's awesome.
Well, that's awesome to hear. And of course, we were just talking a little bit about the sagging control earlier, that's kind of responsible for the different feel under the fingers, and that's kind of doing what some tube amps do as well. Could you feel the difference when you were cranking that up and down?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was basically, maybe I'll just show you what I was doing too, because you know, with some of these settings, and what's cool is how with the Hughes Kettner, same thing with the Grandmeister 40, you basically can use the knobs as two different things, both to control effects and also to control the tone stack and the preamp and gain settings, things like that. And it responds just like a tube amp. It's crazy. So like, yeah, the sagging, I usually when I do that, I try to get like something going here. So I guess the lower sagging settings would be like pushing the power amps less hard. Is that what that would be?
Exactly, yeah. The more you turn it up, the more you're cranking it effectively, yeah.
Right. So yeah, let me play the same thing, and I'll just crank that up. That's awesome, man. Yeah. I guess that's kind of like with the power soak setting on the Grandmeister. Kind of does that in a way too, where you can crank the volume of the power amps up and get that even in silent mode, which is cool because I do a lot of the silent recording with the Grandmeister 40. That's killer, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
And you were telling me as well about the different situations that you were thinking you might be able to use this amp in. Everything from home recording to doing little shows to doing bigger things to plugging it into all sorts of different speakers, from guitar cabs to monitors to even hi-fi speakers. You can do that as well.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things is you never really realize how fragile tubes can be until you get in a situation where, you know, the biasing somehow it's like, no, it's no good anymore, or, you know, one of the tubes breaks, maybe if it's being, you know, someone else is handling it. And you just take that technology for granted because it is like 100 years old or, you know, something now. But it's like, that's what's so good about it is you get that vintage tone with tube amps, but you still have to treat them kind of like a baby sometimes, you know. And I guess that's what's good about solid state. But again, you have that struggle. It's like, do I want to have the tube sound, or do I want to have the solid state reliability? And that's one of the things that excites me about the Black Spirit is that it's maybe one of the first amps that really gives you that feeling like you're not craving the tone that you really want, but you have that reliability where you know you can go to a show and bring this, and maybe you don't have an amp, maybe you don't have a cabinet that matches the ohm rating of your head, you know, and like maybe it's just a monitor speaker. You can plug this right into a monitor speaker, whether it's powered, whether it's you know, not powered, whether it's a cabinet, whatever the ohm rating, I guess, is pretty versatile on that front too. So I've never seen anything like that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and you were also saying about silent recording stuff. That's something you would use it for as well at home, right?
Absolutely. You know, we travel so much, and with like, you know, I love doing videos for my online following, and we'll shoot something, and maybe it's a situation like I remember one time we were in Paris and we were on like next to the Eiffel Tower, next to this carousel, and doing this recording. You've been there, yeah. And so it's like, you know, you don't necessarily just want to crank an amp in that situation. Plus, you don't really, you know, it's not really conducive to that environment. But, you know, like recording in a place like that, it's like if you're doing it totally mobile, like when we did that, the sacrifice is you don't have the tone you want, you know what I mean, or something like that, and you can't just crank it. So to be able to do that in environments where you can just put some headphones on and run the out to maybe a mobile recorder or something like that, and actually have the speaker emulated output, so it sounds like it's a cabinet being mic'd, and you can actually select, you know, the different cabinet settings with the red box. That's freed us up to do a lot of things that we've never been able to do with the quality that we've wanted before, and now we can really do them with that quality, so it's killer.
Yeah, so it's opened a lot of doors for you in that respect, really.
Exactly, yeah, and it's like we've done that in the past, and it's always like, man, it could have been better though if it would have been like this, you know, and like that's the thing. When I saw that you guys put out the Black Spirit, it's like, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? You know, it's like I could have used that in so many places. So I'm excited to see what I could do with this now. It's really awesome.
Yeah, well, it's here now, and I'm excited to see what you're going to do with it. Would you do us the honor of telling us about the Justin Johnson tone that you've dialed in now? I see we're on the Crunch channel, but what else have we got dialed in there? Plenty of reverb.
Yeah, you know, I like to get, you know, usually what I do is I like those old classic amps that are mainly clean or cleanish, and then really pushing them so they get a lot of that natural breakup. And so, you know, I usually use kind of a dirty tone, but I like that dirty tone that comes from pushing the amp and not actually just inserting a lot of gain on it. And so, you know, I was turning these knobs earlier, and I'm not sure what I've got here quite yet, but let me check it out. And so yeah, I like I'm on the Crunch channel right now, and I like that because that reminds me of some of the like a clean. I like getting a clean tone on some of those kind of darker, boxier sounding amps or cabinets, and it sort of gives you the shimmer of like a Fender amp or something I might like some of those surfy tones you can get with the reverb you've got on here. But you still, when you dig in, you get a little bit more nasty than what that would normally give you, and I like having that. And it's a little with the resonance and presence. A lot of times I'll set the treble, mid, and bass almost to the middle, and then I'll really contour my tone more with the presence and resonance knobs. And like the resonance gives me the bass control, and the presence gives me, it's sort of like how close you are to the speaker. Yeah. So it's like, is it the sound coming from the speaker, or is it coming from the room? That's sort of how I imagine the presence knob. Yeah. And so like right now, you know, I like to think of the resonance as the bottom three strings, the three bass strings, and the presence is the treble strings there, the unwound ones. So if I want to get real fat and I want to do like a really heavy kind of feel on a rhythm guitar, I might crank that resonance. Or if I'm playing solo and I want it to feel like there's a bass player and a drummer there. So that gives me that super fat, you know, feel like I've got the resonance all the way up. If I would dial that back down, then I can do more of like all the strings, the whole fretboard becomes more balanced. And then if I really wanted to cut through, like let's say I'm playing with a rhythm guitarist or an organ player, bass player, there's a lot of that low mids already being covered in the band. Like if I'm in the studio and I'm playing on a track like that, instead of the engineer mixing that out later, I might just turn the resonance down and I might boost the presence up just a little bit, and then it's kind of carved out the low mids for me a little bit more, and it falls in the mix naturally, and you don't have to do a lot of that cutting later on. So. And that bass, even though it has the same tone, it's got the nice breakup, it's got that cut to it. It doesn't have that fullness to the bass that might get in the way if I'm playing with a lot of other people in that frequency range.
And you basically never touch the standard treble, mid, and bass EQ controls at all then?
I will sometimes, but I like to, especially with this and with the Grandmeister 40, that's basically my tone knobs, is the presence and the resonance, and I'll get in the studio, I'll kind of set those the way I want, you know, the tone stack the way I want, and then I'll just mess with the presence and resonance, and that sort of, it's almost like it's bringing you closer or farther away from the listener's perspective is how I imagine those knobs, and it's the only amp that I can do that with. It's awesome.
Interesting. And I suppose that also helps if you've got a bunch of different guitars as well, doesn't it? It's a lot more simple to get the same tones or different tones if you want out of different instruments, different pickup types and so on.
Absolutely, and I play a lot of unconventional stringed instruments too, so if I'm playing something with 3 strings or 1 string even, I can just, if I want that string to sound like it's the biggest string you've ever heard, I'll just crank the presence and the resonance, and it just sounds like a monster coming through the room, and people, I think they listen to it and they think it's like, what is that? What is it making it sound that way? And a lot of it is the fact that, I can control the tone the way I have it in my mind, and I can have that coming out of the amp because the knobs you guys have and the way they interact with the electronics and everything, it really just gives you that palette that I'm looking for. It's killer.
Talking of unconventional stringed instruments, I'd really like you just to show us what you've been playing today, if that's all right, because this is very, very unique.
Well, this is one of the guitars that I'm showcasing here at NAMM, and this is the Ciari guitars. Travel guitar, so it's a premium guitar, electric guitar, and what's great, and it goes well with something like the Black Star too, because when you're on the road and you want to travel light, you can fold this guitar down and take it as a carry-on. So this could be like my carry-on and my personal item right there on the airplane. I don't have to let the amp or the guitar out of my sight when I'm traveling, and when I get where I'm going, I just tune this baby back up, plug in the amp, and I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, that's so cool, because with that, that's all you need to play shows, right? Technically, isn't it?
Exactly, and if you're used to that sound, and you travel without it a couple of times, you really realize how important it is to have that tone that you want when you're on the road. But if you're traveling, I talk to so many musicians, and myself included, from experience. Traveling to Europe from America or vice versa, and going through customs, and you get these limits on the amount of weight you can take on the road and what you can fit into booths. You don't want to usually let people toss your stuff around, put it in your checked bags. It's so cool to have something like the versatility of the heads that you guys create. With the speaker emulated output, you can plug them straight into the PA. You don't even need a cabinet, which is awesome. And that's the way I travel now, is with that mindset. And so you guys keep coming up with awesome inventions to make that easier and easier. And pretty soon, that's like the cabinet has a tone, I think, especially in the studio, that you just can't replicate any other way. But when you're live, and there's all of the noise and the energy of the live room, that the speaker emulated out, from my experience, sounds better than a microphone in a lot of ways. It's a lot more reliable. You don't have to put as much trust in whatever sound guy you might end up with, because you never know what mic they're going to use or how they're going to mic it or where they're going to place it, or if someone's going to kick the mic when they walk by on stage or something like that. And so it's changing the game. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Box, it is 100% consistent. You know what you're going to get every single time. You plug it in, you're good to go.
Exactly, and you don't have to bring a cabinet, and that's just that's awesome. Yeah, exactly. And this has, I guess, 6 different cabinet types, right? Whereas like the Red Box on the Grandmeister has, large, like vintage and modern, and then large and small. This has what's this got on it?
This one has 8 actually. So you've got 2 1x12s. Then a 2x12, a 4x10, and then 4 different 4x12s. So there's really a whole lot of different flavors you can select to play from. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to dig into it. That's making my mouth water. That's great.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to send you one. I think hopefully at some point during this year we can get one out to you in your studio, and maybe you can test it against the Grandmeister, A/B it, see how it works for you, and maybe do some stuff with it. Who knows? That'd be awesome, I think.
Awesome. I love it, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with us today, show us this wonderful guitar, play a few tunes, and if it wouldn't be too much bother, why not play us out with a little something? That'd be lovely.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Justin Johnson, everybody. Hughes and Kettner, check him out on all his channels. Check us out as well. We'll see you in the next video. Tschüss.